In this video, we're going to talk about ways of including custom fonts and using them in our CSS, so that we don't have to rely on these built-in fonts, the system fonts like Arial and Georgia, that are not very reliable in the first place. Some people's machines won't have them, and they're pretty limited. Even if all of them are available, it's not many fonts, and it's not many good fonts. So luckily, it's pretty easy to include our own fonts, and that can be a font that we own, that we've purchased, that our company owns, although they can get very, very expensive if you've never looked into font pricing. Some of the better ones can cost hundreds or thousands of dollars. So Google has an option out there. It's called Google Fonts, and it's a really great resource. Basically, Google has a bunch of, I think it's about 100 fonts online for free that are very easy to include in our own application with just a few clicks. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So if we go to Google Fonts, it's just google.com/fonts. You'll see we're immediately presented with a list of fonts here. And we can scroll through them. We can sort them by popularity, alphabetical, most recent. We can change the preview text that we're looking at. Usually I just keep it how it is. And I'm actually going to just pick two fonts here that are very distinct. So don't judge me based off of which ones I pick. They may not be my favorite, but they're just going to be obvious so that you can see that they're different. So I'm going to go, let's do popularity, and let's pick Railway here. And I'm going to click this button, Add to Collection. And what that does, it sort of adds it to my shopping cart. And then the next one I'm going to pick, let's go for another very different one. Let's try this Indie Flower. Add to Collection. So the next thing I'm going to do is click on this Use tab. So what I've said is I want both of these fonts. Now I click on Use, and now I need to decide which font weights I want available. So different fonts have different weights that are available on Google Fonts. So you can see Railway has every single possible option between 100 and Ultra Bold at 900. One thing to pay attention to is you don't want to include more than you're going to use. And this little meter over here reminds you of the page load, or the effect on page load that including multiple weights will have. And that's because every single font and weight that you include is another request that needs to be made. It's more data that needs to be loaded. So what we want to do here is just minimize the number that we need. So I'm just going to use normal and bold for Railway, and then I don't have an option for Indie Flower. There's only one weight, which is normal. So now that I've selected those, I scroll down, and all I have to do is copy this link right here. So this is a link that I put in my HTML. I'm going to go to my HTML here and just paste it in and save. And you can look at the URL here, and you'll notice it's almost the same. Well, it's exactly the same type of tag. It's a link tag. The only difference between my style sheet and this style sheet is the href. So rather than styles.css, my custom local style sheet, it's on google.com or fonts.googleapis.com, and we have family equals Railway, weight 400 and 700, Indie Flower. So suppose I did want a bold, I could just easily go here and add 800. Okay, so that is all we have to do to get the font. It's so easy to do. The next step is to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you what it looks like right now, in case you forgot. Wonderful site. Let's start by changing this H1. So let's make the H1 use the Indie Flower font. So I'm just going to change it here. H1, I have font family as Georgia. I just change it to Indie Flower. And that's it. Very, very easy. Refresh, and you can see it's now Indie Flower. Same thing to use Railway on paragraphs. I just change the font family to Railway. Save and refresh, and I now have this new font here. The other thing we can do is change our paragraph to use the other font weight. So we got 2, remember. Let's just go with normal. It looks a lot better. Doesn't look very good either way, but I prefer the lighter weight rather than the bold. So again, Google Fonts is a great resource. One thing though I'll mention is if you do have fonts that you own, all you have to do to link to them is use a link tag. So rather than linking to one of Google's fonts, you just link to your own font file. So you can read more on MDN about the specific font file types that are supported. But basically, it works the same way, except rather than including a Google font, you can include your own custom font. Luckily, though, Google Fonts has all sorts of great fonts. You can make awesome websites, and plenty of people use Google Fonts exclusively, even for professional websites.